Hello mentors, in this video we explore activity 3, strange coins. So we have a bunch of coins which have different values when they're standard coins, but you can stretch them and then change the area. And for example, if you duplicate the area, duplicate the value. Triplicate the area, triplicate the value. So it's proportional. Now, before we start explaining the activity, what are the goals? So it all starts and ends with learning goals. That's very important in Math.CEO. So the goals are convert between different values of objects, and this has to do with mathematical standard of practice number 2, which is reason abstractly and quantitatively. And in different trainings, we'll explore these 8 standards of mathematical practice. You can Google them in the Common Core, or we'll give you some links for those. Second goal, use ratios and proportionality to figure out the cost of value or value of objects. Here the key is to use relational or conceptual knowledge rather than just applying formulas or procedures to figure out things. So this is really important, and that's why we use ratios and proportionality so much in Math.CEO. And finally, interpret information that's used in charts and tables, because statistical thinking or thinking about data is used more and more in every job, in every career. So that's really important. And of course, a very big goal that is not listed here is to develop spatial thinking, understand stretching, the meaning of transformations, how area changes. So that's all, of course, part of this big activity. And depending on the level of your students, you'll see different levels of sophistication when you discuss these ideas. So before you actually play the game, you develop a little bit of intuition of stretching. So for example, if you have a standard sofa coin here, right, and you stretch it vertically by 2, then after the transformation, you can convince yourself that the area will also be multiplied by 2. There are several ways to convince yourself of that. You could either count, the little mini squares, and it goes from 8 to 16. So that's an area duplication. But you could also use visual arguments. You could say, look, this transformated sofa coin can be made out of alternating horizontal strips, and the yellow guys make up for a standard sofa, and the brown guys make up for another standard sofa. So it's just the original, but twice. You could also stretch a sofa coin horizontally by a factor of 3, and you could also convince yourself that the area will be exactly 3 times. And so the value will be 9, etc., etc. After you're done with this exploration of areas and stretching, then you jump to the game, and let's do an example of how a mission is developed. So the first step is that you roll 1 or 2 dice to select item 2 to 12 to buy. With 2 dice you add, and so I recommend you do this first version just rolling 1 die, because missions 2 to 12 get harder and harder each time. So if you only roll 1 die, you'll get up to mission 6, and you won't get mission 7 to 12 until later stages in the activity. So for example, let's say I rolled a 6. So what does it mean? I go to my, buy cards and look for card number 6. And card number 6 says I'm gonna buy all tickets for 12 kids, 3 babies, and 2 adults for the safari park. And here's where, data thinking or statistical thinking comes into play. You have to make sense of tables and read it. This is a basic table, of course, not too many things. So other missions have more involved things. So to figure out the total, well, I have to pay for 12 kids. Each kid is worth 5. The cost is 5, so that's 60. I have to pay for 3 babies, but no matter how many babies, I'm not paying anything for them. And I have to pay for 2 adults, so 2 times 7 is 14. So my total price is going to be 74. That's part 1 of the mission, how it develops. And then I roll again 1 or 2 dice to select 1 or 2 restriction. In the variant, the advanced version in the booklet, you can roll 2 dice and then you deal a little bit with logic. But here, let's keep it simple. I'm just gonna roll 1 die, and let's say I got a 2. So I go to my restriction card and I read restriction 2, which is you cannot use any sofa nor any horseshoe coin. So these are forbidden. And remember that brick coins are only for the beginning explanation. You only play with these 4 coins in the game. So I have to use either camel or triangle. And now comes step 3. So I have to select at most 10 coins and stretch them in different ways, however I like, so that they finally add to the item cost. So what I have here is I have to buy something costing $74, and I can use at most 10 coins between camel and triangle. So if I don't do any stretching, I'm not gonna get the 74. So I have to do some little bit of stretching. That's the first observation. Otherwise, I could only buy something up to $50. So here's where kids start doing, different strategies, trial and error, ruling out things. They can draw, they can think of similar problems, etc., etc. So one way would be to have a triangle. So triangle, and do either a horizontal or vertical stretch. Let's say a horizontal stretch of 10. And by the area change, that would give us $50. Just one triangle coin. That's stretch. And now we're only $24 short to get to 74. So if I use 6 camel with no stretching, which is totally okay, no stretching, or you could say stretch by a factor of 1, it's the same. I'm going to get the remaining 24 that I needed, and so that gives me 74. Now there's a chart in the manipulatives that's developed this idea of making this solution systematic, dividing the types of coin, the stretching, the new values, subtotal, etc., etc. So it's all done in a very, very nice way. So here we actually use 7 coins, so that's fine because 7 is less or equal to 10, and we got the result. So we did it. Now your job as a mentor is to challenge students in such a way that the task is not impossible, it's realistic, but that they have to actually do some effort. So this solution was quite simple. So you could, as a mentor, say, okay, why don't you do it now using only 5 coins? Or why do you do it now only using camel coins, or 2 triangles and 3 camels, etc., etc. So you start putting some more restrictions if you want to make it a little more interesting. This is when the kids solve this problem very easily. If this was challenging enough, then you would say, okay, mission accomplished, and then, let's move on to another mission. So it allows you in the teaching to have a lot of flexibility, this type of activity. So I hope you liked it. Enjoy.